Welcome to this webinar where we present you with some information on the Master of Clinical Psychology at Utrecht University. Let me start by showing you, this is the first one. Show you what Utrecht is. It's a nice historical city. It's very old actually, and it has a lot of atmosphere. Although the campus looks a bit different, I'm afraid. This is where we're as psychology department heading. It is a nice campus too, but it's a bit different from the inner city, the center of the city, which is quite historical. Let me introduce who's here for you. Well, here beside me we have Eileen Moren. She's one of our students this year.
Hello.
She will give you some inside information on our master from her perspective, of course. Mm-hmm. On chat we have Josita Versteeg. Josita is our internship coordinator, and since we always have a lot of questions about internships, she will answer them on chat, and if there's important questions for a general audience, she'll put them through to us, and we can try and answer them and integrate them in our talk. And my name is Henk Schut. I'm the coordinator of the Master of Clinical Psychology, actually. So welcome. We heard people joining in from India, from Denmark, from Ireland, Egypt, Romania, and a lot of other countries. Well, so we really have an international audience, and that's really nice. Welcome to you all. Let me start by giving you some general information on our master. First of all, we have quite a number of staff members that are involved in teaching. And it's actually, if you look at you see a link to the websites here, you can actually look for the different staff members and see what their background is, what their expertise is, but also you can check their publications and their area of research. And I would really recommend you to have a look there before considering to apply for the master, because it gives you really a good feel of the people that we have and expertise that we have, and whether it attracts you or not. Apart from the people, of course, there's the content. We have basically two broad research orientations. The one is indeed on clinical psychopathology. And if you look at the website, you can get some information on that. Well, I'll give you some details about the content of that later on. And the other one is on experimental psychopathology. And in terms of topics, that comes then down to all kinds of disorders and difficulties that people are dealing with, like depression, like anxiety disorders, post-traumatic stress disorder, complicated grief, etc., etc. So that's the one area. And on the other hand, we have the ways of dealing with these from a psychological perspective, in terms of diagnosis, in terms of treatment, relapse, of prevention, etc., but also general prevention of disorders from becoming disorders. So we cover the whole area of clinical psychology in that respect. Am I right?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm glad to hear that. So how does our curriculum then look? Well, I'll give you a general picture of the structure, which I just heard from Eileen, that it's quite difficult to comprehend. So I'll go through the details with you a bit slower. First of all, we have 4 periods in the year, and those then are split up between 2 semesters. So the first 2 periods is the first semester, that is from September to January, and the second semester starts with period 3 in the beginning of February and then goes on until the end of June, when period 4 ends. And in that period we have actually only 4 courses that we offer. They're 4 quite intense courses, so it's not an easy treat in that respect. But those 4 courses, 3 of them are period courses, so they cover a period of about 10 to 11 weeks. And we have one course, and that's academic professional that you see in the middle of the slide, that covers the first semester. Let me start with two courses that you not necessarily have to do. These are elective courses. We have a course on loss and psychotrauma, which is one of our fields of expertise within our department. And the other courses on anxiety disorders, which we have a lot of the team members being an expert in too. And those are the two courses that you can do, one in period 2 and one in period 3. But you can actually choose for other courses too if you want to. This is what we have on offer, but we also have a master in developmental psychology and in neuropsychology, for instance. So if those courses better fit your needs, feel free to take those courses and not the courses that we actually do offer.
It's quite flexible.
Yeah.
In that sense.
Which courses are you doing actually?
I'm actually doing the one that are mentioned in the table, like the loss and psychotrauma and also the anxiety disorders.
Okay.
So I was really interested in these ones, but I have friends that also do extra courses like statistics or policy making, which is, I would say, not so typical for psychology students, but you still have the opportunity to take these ones as well.
Yeah. The nice thing about that, and that's nice that you mentioned it, because that gives you a really an opportunity for personal profiling, professional profiling of yourself.
Exactly.
We don't all have the same expertise once you finish your master here.
Exactly. Or for example, forensic psychology.
Yeah.
That is also something very interesting.
Yeah.
So there will be some chance to get a diverse curriculum.
Exactly. Yeah, you can even do courses sometimes at other universities within the Netherlands. If you're interested in a course on medical psychology, well, it would be possible to do that elsewhere too. So those are the two elective courses, and all the other courses. We'll just continue. All the other courses are actually mandatory. Cognitive and behavior therapy is one of the mandatory courses. All students need to do that course because we think it's essential for students to do that course. And academic professional, which is a course that's actually somewhat of an interface between academic, scientific and research ways of thinking and the field of clinical psychology. That is a course that covers the whole first semester, but is spread thin. All 4 are 5 EC courses in the end. There's 2 other courses that we have that actually aren't courses, but are very important aspects of our program. The one is the internship, and the other is the thesis. And you can do your internship in the first period and your thesis in the second period. Or the semester, sorry. So the internship in the first semester and the thesis in the second semester, or the other way around. You can't do them both at the same time. That's pretty impossible time-wise, and it's also not practical in a lot of ways because it's just too time-consuming, and you wouldn't have any weekend left, wouldn't you?
Yes, probably.
Yeah. And we don't want that to happen. And for international students, it's important to keep in mind that actually it's best to start your thesis in the first semester, to do that in the first semester, and the internship in the second semester. I'll get to the background of that later. So you can actually do the one or the other, but for Dutch students, it's indeed more practical. Well, no, either one of the orders is good to do, but for the international students, it's more practical and advisable to do your thesis in the first semester and your internship in the second semester.
I also do it this way.
Just
right now I started with a master's thesis, and then from the period 3, I start with my internship, and this I will do abroad in Germany.
Yeah. We'll get to the details of that later on, because there might be quite some questions about that, I guess.
Yeah.
One thing to keep in mind that's already important is that our courses are always on Mondays and on Wednesdays, and that the other days of the week you can work on your thesis or on your internship. That's important. That doesn't change over the year. We always have those 2 days reserved, and academic professional is always on the Wednesday. So actually, in the 4th period and in the 3rd period, you only have teaching on the Mondays. So you can really spend your time on the internship and on the thesis, and that's probably the time you need too, isn't it?
Yes, I think you really need the time to work and research for your thesis on these other days, but also to have group meetings for other courses. For cognitive behavioral therapy, for example, you have unsupervised meetings. So mostly you do this on the other days where you don't have classes. And these are very needed, I would say.
Yeah. I'm just seeing that we have one question from Vera, who says, well, is there a list of other courses that you can choose from, or do you have to find that out yourself? No, we do have a list. The list becomes available during the year. It's too early to publish that already, but somewhere halfway through this year, that information becomes available, at least for all the courses we have on offer within our faculty. And that's quite a lot of courses that you can choose from. It's over 20, and they indeed cover from statistics to developmental psychology, to neuropsychology, clinical psychology, of course, or policy making, or even courses on international conflict resolution. There's all kinds of things that you can really choose from. We don't have a list from other universities or outside our faculty, but that information can easily be found on the websites of the universities, and we can try and be helpful there, of course, if you're looking for a specific course, and you can always ask questions about that. Okay, a little bit more information about the courses then, and let's start with the semester course that we have. That's academic professional. The course coordinator of that is Lot Sternheim, and you see a picture there. And like I said, that's a course that's actually the interface between scientific thinking and clinical practice. I would say that this is the core course, or supposed to be the core course, for becoming a scientist practitioner. And that's actually what we're aiming at with our master's program. You're not becoming a full-blown clinical psychologist in terms of that you can do all kinds of therapies, etc. It is an academic master that you're doing, but we're preparing you in a scientific way, and we do pay attention, of course, to clinical skills, etc. But it is, in essence, an academic master that you're doing. So, and this course then really is on personal reflection on your role as a professional. It's about ethics. It's about labor market orientation, etc. Well, there's all kinds of things that are addressed in that course. You're in the middle of that course, actually, so maybe you can add something to that.
Yeah, it's a very professional course where you learn how to to act as an evidence-based practitioner. We talk about cultural issues, how to treat patients that have a different cultural background, and these things I think are very important to discuss within a clinical setting, because some problems or dilemmas can occur, and they really prepare you to deal in professionally in these situations. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's a bit of the flair of this course.
Yeah.
The other mandatory course that we have is cognitive and behavior therapy. Course coordinator of that course is Elske Salemink. And that is a very practical course indeed. It's theoretical too, in the sense that you get a lot of background information, but it's a very skills-oriented course, so that you have some basic skills, and it's no more than just some basic skills, but yet very important basic skills for clinical work. And since most of our students actually do a clinical internship, that information and that exercise and that training is needed to be able to work as a professional internship clinical psychologist. So that's why we offer that course first in the year.
A very important course as well.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, me and my friends, we learned a lot from this course, how to use cognitive techniques, and yeah, we really could advance our knowledge in this field, which is very necessary if you want to treat patients and give therapy, or also for other kind of areas.
Yeah.
I highly recommend this.
Okay. Well, they have to do it anyway.
Yes. But with pleasure.
Okay, so and then the other two, well, the other period courses that we have, and like I said, that's on additional to the mandatory course, cognitive behavior therapy. We have 2 electives, loss and psychotrauma, for which I'm the course coordinator, as you might have noticed, because there's some resemblance between the picture and me. And anxiety disorders, that course is coordinated by Katharina Meyerbreuker. These are actually a bit twin courses. They are also, well, bridging the gap between clinical practice and research, evidence-based research that has been done, theoretical approaches. We do offer some practical training too, I think, but well, maybe you can say something. You're in the middle of loss and psychotrauma right now.
Yes, so. Yes. Like last week we had workshops, and for example, one workshop that Hank taught was about grief in the classroom. So we talk about and discuss in a small group, how would we deal with the loss of a fellow student? How can schools and teachers deal with that? How to interact with parents? But also we had a really nice workshop with Josita, which taught us how to do narrative exposure therapy, especially useful for refugees, let's say, who were confronted to multiple traumas. So there was a kind of really nice practical way how to act, like how to apply maybe later on in your future as well, and some very important things to think about.
An applied scientific approach.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're aiming at with those courses. I'm glad you say that.
And they are helpful and not so theory oriented, but also very practical.
Yeah. Well, thank you. That's exactly what we're trying to achieve with that course. So it's good to hear from you too. We have to go on. So there's 2 courses that are more individual then. Like I said before, that's the internship and the thesis. The current course coordinator for the internship is Josita Versteeg, but next year Anne Winters and Nienke Ellenbroek will be involved in that course too. And the thesis, well, that's me again, so no picture this time. Let me tell you a little bit about the internship, because that's actually what a lot of students have worries or questions about. First of all, we offer 2 kinds of internships: clinical internships or research internships, and it depends a bit on what your picture is of your professional future, what would suit best. But most of our students actually prefer doing a clinical internship. Well, you can see what the aims are, so I won't repeat them, but it's learning by doing and reflecting on that, and all kinds of aspects, both in terms of diagnostics, working in teams, reporting in a professional way, etc. Well, that's essential, of course, for becoming a clinical psychologist. How to acquire a clinical placement? Well, a lot of students actually do acquire a position via their personal networks and take their own initiative and follow their interests. If they're interested in working with the elderly, they focus on organizations that work with the elderly and do an open application, for instance. We have a departmental network that's both national and international. That is work in progress. We've been an international master now for 4 years, and we've had students from all over the world world, and we're trying to develop some sort of an international network where we can have liaison persons in every country who can help you find internship positions, but that is very difficult still. It is difficult to find as an international to find an internship position,
Yes.
especially a clinical internship position. I see that Alexandra has the question about how is it to do a clinical internship, or how to study clinical psychology actually, while not speaking Dutch. Well, for our master's program, that's not a problem at all because the entire program is in English. If you're just speaking English, you can follow the entire program. But if you want to acquire an internship position in the Netherlands and you don't speak Dutch, that's very difficult, if not impossible.
It's impossible, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty impossible. Yeah.
There are some places that actually offer, but they are really scarce, like that you can work in English. My friend, she's from Venezuela, Maria, and she found an internship in The Hague.
Yeah.
But that is almost the only one that really has.
Yeah, we have very few of those positions.
Very few, yes.
If you come from abroad and you do need a clinical internship, considering the fact also that clinical psychology is very much an articulate profession. You work with words. And your client works with words. So you really need to work with your mother tongue there. So what most of our students do is do their clinical internship in a country where their mother tongue is spoken.
Yeah.
And it's actually already good if you are seriously interested in our master to prepare for that right now. Look at where the possible countries are where you can do your internship. Maybe already contact organizations that possibly could offer internship positions. While you're in the Netherlands, we can try and help you. We can try and facilitate that. But in the end, the work is basically needs to be done by yourself, and there's a lot of work involved, and it is complicated. For our Dutch students, since we have been a master program for over 50 years, we have a repository for organizations that we work closely with and that offer internship positions in the clinical area. Specifically for the internship for the international students, well, basically we've said that all, but it's good to have it on writing too. So so that if you look at the slides, you can really go through those details and prepare well. Because that's one of the most essential aspects I think to think about in preparing for this master, isn't it?
Yes. Because I will go to my home country, to Germany, to do my internship. And I thought to do it from April on. Then I have finished all the courses, and then you can go home and also do the internship and then graduate on time. Yeah. So most of the people, they actually do it this way.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Unless you don't have a research internship here.
Of course, yeah.
It's of course easier than the clinical one, but.
Yeah, but if you want to prepare for clinical work, that's
then it would
not
be
the
more.
Right. Yeah. Well, there's some more formal information about the clinical internship. I'll leave that to that, considering that we don't have too much time for this session. The same mostly applies to when we're talking about the thesis. Thesis is about the same in the sense that it's also 20 EC like the internship is. And you can participate in a research project within the department. We have a wealth of projects that we're working on, and most of them actually hire students for participating for their thesis. But there's also a lot of projects elsewhere in organizations that welcome students, and there's also the possibility of trying to conduct your own projects. Although, as I said on the slide, be very careful in what you wish for, because that is difficult. And if you're thinking about doing your own research project, I'd suggest and advise to start early working on that and thinking about what you want to do, how you want to do it, etc. You don't have it all ready by the time that you start, but it's too late if you start thinking about how to pick up how to start a research project if when you just arrived in early September of next year.
Exactly. You should at least know what kind of area you would investigate and research in.
Yeah.
From the beginning of September, yes.
Yeah. Well, you actually, I remember that we had quite some contact before you arrived. Maybe you can tell a little bit more about how it feels for you. What did you do to prepare, and how has it been thus far for you? What have you done, and what are the pitfalls, and what do you like about it? What don't you like about it?
Mm-hmm. I quickly introduce myself.
Yes, please.
I'm Eileen. I'm a student in the second period right now of this master program, and I come from Germany, but I graduated from Nijmegen from Radboud University this year. So I just started to study here together with being a student of Henk, and well, I prepared for this master. For me, it was possible to visit the open days. Most of the students, they don't have the chance to go there, so that was quite helpful. But also via the website and also via Facebook, I found lots of information. And I think from the beginning of the masters, they also did an official group, Utrecht Clinical Psychology group from the university. So there we could also discuss and ask questions within these closed group. Right now, I really enjoy to be here. The environment within the master program is very different. I mean, it's also a Dutch, like in the Netherlands, but on my prior university, there were mostly Germans, but here we really have a very diverse group of people. We have people from France, from Venezuela, from Dubai, from almost everywhere, Africa, a few Germans, and of course also Dutch people. But it more feels like you're really in an international environment where you only talk in English. So also concerning the questions you had before, if you need to know Dutch to live here, I think the Netherlands is the perfect country just to know English, and you don't need to know any other language. But I would recommend to really, learn a bit about the culture and try to speak a few words. And
And what could you say about the atmosphere of the department? How do you feel about? I'm quite curious about that too. So.
So as you already see, we have a kind of warm atmosphere here between students and lecturers. Lecturers are very helpful, and we have a very close relationship. If you have questions, you can contact them via email. You can visit their offices, and like there's almost everyone helps. It feels like you feel that you are in a surrounding from psychologists with lots of social skills and empathy. So there's nothing to worry about that. And the group, like our current master group, is very they do lots of things. They meet outside. We have a WhatsApp group. You will also have this probably later on. And you can arrange meetings. We have yesterday we had a discussion meeting with pizza, and then also when you start studying.
You don't have that every evening.
No, not every evening, of course, but there are some events that are really nice, and as a social gathering, and also from the how to say, like this, from the social perspective, I can really recommend this master. Also, studying here is enjoyable, and it's possible. Everything is manageable if you really work hard and you put effort in the things you have to do in your assignments. If you go to the classes, to the lectures, it really helps you to manage your master studies in time. And it's also very interesting. I just finished my cognitive behavioral therapy course. So that was the first course we already have done. And that was very interesting. I really enjoyed this course. It was practical. We had unsupervised meetings where we learned how to really engage in cognitive behavioral therapy, how to use techniques, which I didn't know before. Maybe some of them from a different background, from abroad, they had this experience, but it was really good to learn and to see how to start with psychoeducation, for example, and all these things that are highly relevant to work as a therapist. So we studied and we all passed, almost everyone passed.
Oh yeah?
Yes,
Okay.
I think the average was good, above 7, and yeah.
Okay. Yeah, just one question. Housing. Could you say something about housing?
Yes, housing is a very difficult topic. I think you all have probably read it already online, also on the webpage. I personally, I got a flat on time, but I also started looking more than 3 months in advance. So it is very, very difficult. So I highly recommend you to even look 4 months in advance, contact landlords, go and go into Facebook groups such as Utrecht Housing, Students in Utrecht, International Students in Utrecht. They are different groups, and they post student houses where you can apply. Although I have to say it's even difficult because sometimes you apply and you don't even get a response. So that is really sad, but if you really go on and write even very early in advance, you will find something. Also, there are student accommodations from the SSH, and some of my friends, they are staying in these accommodations, but they have deadlines when to apply, and within the deadline, the first 5 minutes, they are booked out. So you have to be within the first second, you have to apply for this kind of student housing. After 5 minutes, you have no chance anymore. So that is something you really should consider. And there are web pages such as karmanet.nl. So they help you really. You have to create an account for €15 a month, let's say. But this is really helpful. My friends found flats via this website. And yeah.
Yeah, the situation has improved compared with a couple of years ago, but it's still you need to be proactive. You need to be resilient because
and you really shouldn't give up because it is very frustrating if you, for example, I wrote under so many Facebook posts, please help me, I really desperately need to find a flat, and after 5 posts you don't get an answer, you feel like I won't find anything, but there's a chance. And if you say, okay, I have applied to so many places, just give me an answer, then they see, okay, this person is very desperate. They write you, and then there's a chance.
So you can find a place, but it's hard work, and you don't get it immediately. That's important to keep in mind.
And the prices are also like quite high, I would say, starting from 400 having a studio euros. A studio, for example, is from 700 to 1,000, let's say. So keep in mind that there will be additional costs as well.
Yeah, be prepared for that.
Exactly.
That's important information indeed.
What else?
Anything else? Well, we can just we'll get the questions if people have questions.
Okay.
And maybe we just can continue a little bit with. Thank you. That was, I think, very
You're
valuable
welcome.
information for me too.
I hope I could help.
Talking about career perspectives. So, what to do after your master? Well, what we do see is that a lot of people start working in mental health care, of course, in treatment and diagnostics, etc. But we also see quite some of our alumni working in policy development and in research, of course. And some of them actually become teachers, which is a nice profession to be honest. And there's a lot of other things that people start working into, but mainly it is in researching in healthcare, and mostly in healthcare, of course. How to apply for our master? Well, first of all, you can find all the information on the website. If you go to the website and you go to admission and application, they find basically all the information in terms of the criteria, in terms of the procedures that we have, etc. So I won't go into all the details of that because you can find it there in much more detail and much more refined than we can present it here. But what is required is that you have competencies in terms of general psychological knowledge, in terms of psychopathology, in terms of psychodiagnostics or assessment, in research, of course, and in terms of professional communication. How to operationalize that, or what the specific criteria are? Well, if you go to the website and you download the form where that is made explicit, and I think you'll get all the details there. We did already in advance have some questions about whether one would be eligible for our program. Well, that's very difficult for us to judge without any dossier. So if you have questions about that, basically the thing is to apply for it. And we are always aiming at having a decision ready by 3 weeks. So you know quite soon after you applied whether you do meet the criteria or you don't. And sometimes if there isn't, we have the possibility of doing, especially for research and for assessment, we do offer summer school courses too.
Yeah.
But that's then mentioned in the letter. You actually did both
Yes.
summer school courses, didn't you?
Yes, I did one summer school course because I lacked one criteria of assessment. So I went to the summer school of psychodiagnostics.
Yeah.
And that was quite informative. Also, within the summer school, you really could get to know the future people that you were studying with. Part of them, not everyone, of course, but part of them. It was very nice. Also, from prior to the beginning of the studies, you already knew many people.
Yeah.
So it was helpful. Others, for example, I know my friends, they had not enough knowledge in statistics. So there will be also summer school in statistics. These are taught then in the months of August, I remember, July and August. Yeah. So it may happen that if you lack some lectures or courses, then you still have the chance with the summer school to attend to this master program.
Yeah, yeah. With the diagnostics summer school course, by the way, it might interfere with getting a visa. That's something to figure out very well before you start applying for that.
Yeah.
It's too technical to go into details of that, but it sometimes interferes.
It's like 1 month prior to the studies.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the deadline for our application, that is actually this date, so the 23rd of April, so March. So, and the deadline is strict. It's a deadline. So if you want to apply for our master, please do it before the date that you see on the slide here. And that leaves us with some of the questions, and hopefully we can provide you with some answers. Well, we have some questions being forwarded to us. Vera asks us a question whether she can do a thesis abroad. In general, you can, but it only applies to Dutch students then, because if you do for international students, it would be basically impossible to do both your internship and your thesis abroad. So this applies then to Dutch students, and you can do your thesis abroad, but if you do that, then that needs to be done in the second semester, because otherwise you miss your mandatory courses, which is exactly the reason why our international students can only do their internship in the second period. By the way, some of our students really don't want to go away because they want to do that elective course in the third period, the anxiety disorders course. That is possible. It's possible to do your internship in the fourth period, but then you have to offer your summer vacation, because then you have to do your internship in that period too, and yet finish your study within the academic year, which ends by the end of August.
Yeah, maybe some little information, because I was wondering about this prior to the studies. I'm now doing my internship from 15th of April on a full-time base. So if you really want to work full-time base, you have to do it 3.5 months. But you can also spread your internship over a longer period. Let's say for 4, 5, 6 months. Of course, then you don't need to work many days a week. But then you have to do, for example, work 2-3 days a week only. But this is like up to you how you schedule your classes, and if you have classes in the third period, or if you put all the classes in the first period. So that is possible to be there flexible in this respect.
Yeah. Martin asks us a question, is there an option to participate, this considers the thesis, to participate in somebody else's research, or instead of starting your own research? Yes, actually, Martin, I can reassure you that most of the projects that are on offer are existing research projects in which you can participate. So you don't all need to come up with your own research project. I would certainly not recommend doing that because that's too much. And for a lot of students, it's more convenient, and it's quite a good learning experience too, to just roll into one of the projects, do the work, and based on the data set that's available, come up with your own research question and hypotheses, and write your thesis about that. That's what I think about 90% of our students do in the research project. Only part of them come up with their own projects.
Yeah, but very less people, I would say.
Yeah.
Everyone found a coordinator that investigates a certain topic. I'm doing this with Henk, and we are investigating grief. But also there are other lecturers that do social anxiety. So within their project, you can find a place and then investigate the variables you're interested in.
Yeah.
In collaboration with your lecturer, of course. But that is very helpful. So there is some guidance. In this respect, you're not lost with your research.
No. You don't have to. No, it's a learning experience. It's not that you need to prove that you already can do it. So you get supervision, of course, on your project. You're not working on your own. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
We have Emma. I don't know where Emma comes from, but she has the question: what are the requirements for the internship? Well, basically, the only requirement officially that we have, which is more general, that is that you have to at least do your course on CBT, on cognitive and behavior therapy, because there you get some of the skills. And of course, you need to be involved in the academic professional course. But since both are mandatory, there's no way to dive that anyway. And there are specific requirements which are specific for certain organizations or certain positions, but that's too much detail to go into that. But we have a repository for the positions, and usually when they have specific requirements, they mention that in the text that you need to already have knowledge about diagnostics with autism, for instance. Maybe you could say something about that.
Yeah, but there will be also a course manual that really gives you very clear information about what the internship needs to fulfill, like what kind of tasks you have to do. For example, I'm going to work in a psychiatric hospital with anxiety disorders and all kinds of problems. So that is, I think, from now we shouldn't worry so much about this, because everything will be very clear in the beginning of the studies, and especially when the international students will start with their thesis, then they will have time to think about where to work and how and with whom and where.
Yeah, we probably have answered a couple of questions, but given rise to many more, and there will be questions left, and usually you get answers during the process.
Exactly.
For now, we have to stop anyway. We're over time already, so we want to thank you for your presence here. Well, not physical presence, but digital presence. We really appreciated you logging in and all the questions that we got, and we hope we've been able to provide you at least with some of the answers to your questions. And if you have any further queries, you know where to contact us.
Good luck.
Bye-bye.
Bye.